how to be motivated, how to actually have that fire in your belly and accomplish the things that you really want to be able to achieve. How is this possible? Well, I'll tell you how. There are scientific studies that show how motivation works and the opposites on how people can become demotivated. This is a very attainable thing. Now, let me tell you a story. When I was young, I was extremely motivated. I was highly efficient. I would accomplish a lot. And I ended up doing things that would impress adults and really shock people in ways that they thought there's no way you can be 17 and doing all this. There's no way you could be 18, 19 doing all of this. And it was because I had stumbled upon what the key things were, the key components of how to be motivated and how to be successful with what I was attempting to do, right? Now, I lost that and I ended up becoming depressed. I became nihilistic, existential, and I didn't know why. I didn't understand why it was. I went from someone who was on a breakneck pace of taking over the world to somebody who just had no motivation at all, didn't want to get out of bed, would lay around and thought no point, no purpose, no reason to anything, right? So from there, over time, I learned what it was that was happening. Now, let's start with the scientific studies and then we'll work our way into the process and steps. So, the very first, and this is a story too, of Pavlov's dog. Maybe some of you have heard of this study. It was back, I think, in the 60s and 70s. There was a scientist who wanted to understand how to condition animals and, through animal studies, learn about people and how it is that we are motivated or lack thereof. So this study starts with a whole bunch of dogs in enclosures where they did something very funny or crazy, depending on how you look at it. Today, these studies wouldn't really be allowed, but they would electrocute the floor that the dog was on. So they would, with a whole bunch of different dogs, do it at different intervals or for different actions. Like, for example, if a dog behaved in a certain way, for example, let's say it started barking, they would shock the floor, the dog would get shocked, and then it would eventually, over time, stop barking. Other dogs, they just didn't shock at all, just dogs behaved how they wanted. And then in some instances, they would randomly shock the floor of the dog. And the dogs at first, they would look around and they'd try to figure out, why is it that I'm getting shocked? What is this pain? Why do I have it? And they would try different things, behaving different ways. And then eventually they couldn't make sense of it. They couldn't figure out what is the pattern. And these dogs would begin to develop what was called learned helplessness, where they would simply lay down on the floor all day long. They would do nothing. And the people, they would then shock the dog on the floor, but the dog wouldn't even respond. It would simply lay on the floor, whimper, take the shock, and then go into this hyper depressive state where nothing would happen. It just gave up. It gave up on life. It stopped. This is something that maybe many of you might be experiencing right now or have experienced in the past. And this is a very solvable thing. There is a solution. So let me walk you through it. In history past, we had systems that were very easy to understand how to actually succeed in them. Let's go back 10,000 years. Hunter gatherers. Very simple. You wake up, you have your family around with you, your brothers, your sisters, your wife, whoever, your tribe. And the goal for today is go get food. We need to eat. So what do? You get up, you pick up your bow and arrow, you go out, you hunt, you get the food, you bring it back. Everyone is happy. They have food. And then you can continue to grow your family, your tribe, looking for food, growing things, etc. The end. The hunger was the motivator. It was the negative. It was the thing that would push you. And the reward would draw you in, getting the kill, getting the hunt. And when you would bring that back in, everyone would be very happy. They would hug you. They would thank you. They would take that food, eat it, enjoy it. Your woman, she would kiss you, etc. Your kids want to be like you. They look up to you. You have, if you did not do it though, the very negative response. You'd feel hungry. Maybe your wife or your lady, she starts taking interest in other men. She says, I'm not really wanting to be around you anymore. You can't provide for me. Your kids, they go hungry. You see them crying. That's a very negative, motivator. It'll push you to then try harder. And then there's a good chance you'll end up going out, finding a new way, and getting the food. But there's a positive response. Nowadays, we have a lot of problems. Our systems that we live in, working the 9 to 5, going to college, all of these newer strategies are not working, and not even like they used to work. And so you get confusion. People can't afford houses. They barely are making ends meet. They can't afford healthcare in the United States. There's no way to be able to save and prepare for retirement, getting your kids through college. They're just going to take on a ton of debt. And people's social environments, they don't get to have friends like they used to. So there's this real confusion in how to actually perform and succeed. And because of that, we're getting a lot of negatives, a lot of existentialism, and a lot of nihilism. What's the point, right? Now, that is a real problem. And here's the thing. You have to figure out how to restructure your life so that the negatives actually push you into solving a problem, and solving that problem actually rewards you, so that you end up feeling like there's a purpose, or there's actually some type of positive thing that can come out of doing whatever it is you're pursuing. Okay. So I'm going to break it down now real simple. And I'm going to, at the end, I'm going to talk about the deeper meanings of this. And you might want to stick around for that. First, in life, you have to figure out what it is that you want. Okay. You have to make it clearly defined. You have to go, I want to have this type of life. And you have to figure it out in great detail. Okay. You have to write it all down. You have to get very clear on what you want. And then next, you have to go and you have to write down very clearly what you do not want. I do not want these negative things. I do not want XYZ. Here's an example. Basic. Most people want this type of thing. I want, let's say me as a man, to go and have a nice career so that I can raise a family, go on vacations, retire, raise my kids, have grandkids, continue them on, contribute, right? What I really do not want is to be someone who has roommates the rest of my life. My family is ashamed of me. I don't have any opportunities to have a wife or whatever. And I won't have the opportunity to have kids, and I won't have a successful career. Negative. Okay, so now you set your little piece of vision of heaven and your little vision of hell. And you need to make them extremely as clear as possible. And what you need to do is then the in between. What is the path? What is the way? Okay. You will notice that mostly your subconscious will very quickly know intuitively what to do to get to that, right? And you create a plan and you go at it. But here's the thing: if you're taking inputs from other people on how to do this, which isn't necessarily wrong, you may not get the best plan on how to accomplish all that. And you will go along and you will attempt to achieve the thing, and it may not work out quite right. And at that point, you may get stuck. You may think there's no positive stimulus, there's no reward. Every time I try, I fail. At which point, what you have to do next is you have to go and find other people who have accomplished what you are trying to accomplish in the environment that you are in. And then you have to watch them and you have to say, what is it that they did? And you have to look at their life. And it has to be a life that is aspirational to you, something that is inspiring. Okay? They have what I want. That's something that would be so cool. And you have to let them rub off on you. You have to see them and you have to almost fantasize what it's like to be them. And once you've done that for a while, you'll realize, well, they did it. There must be a way that they did it. Okay? And with that being said, you'll then go, maybe it's not that this isn't attainable. Maybe it's just the way I'm going about it is not attainable. And from there, you won't go into this learned helplessness state, right? Where it's because there's nothing makes sense. Nothing you do accomplishes what you're going after. You have to figure out that there are more than one way. And once you do that and you're open-minded, you're willing to take in all the possibilities of what could be, you'll see another lane. And then you have to go and try that lane. This is the crux of motivation, okay? You need the negative, you need the positive. And in your attempts along the way, you have to track, where were your little wins? Well, I got close when I did this. I got, farther away when I did that. And it's not that this just is unattainable. Someone else did it. What did they do? And then study them, okay? This is motivation in a nutshell. Now, let's get deeper, and this will be kind of the final takeaway, all right? We nowadays try to find purpose and meaning out of everything, unlike how we used to 10,000 years ago. Back when it was the hunter-gatherers, it was you wake up, you hunt, you grow your family, you spend time together because it is. And you know what? Because it worked and because it felt good, you didn't need to take any deeper meaning away from it. It just simply was. You lived a much simpler life and it felt right because deep in your subconscious, you had a larger goal and mission that you didn't understand. It was something so deep to our DNA and to our psyches that it was beyond explaining. And that was, we were growing out the human race. We were growing out creation. We were expanding and we were continuing. And that is our truer, deeper mission, right? Now, as time went on and we ended up advancing, we had higher levels of civilization. Agriculture became a new invention. Mass trade across the Silk Roads, across the ocean, industrialization, all these things, right? New systems came into place, and these new systems produced a lot of wealth and a lot of effect. Now, when that happened, right, there were some people who benefited massively from it, and they got the hyper expansion that was deep in our DNA. They got the wealth. They ended up, people didn't used to be wealthy, right? Is when these systems came in place. Now, with that being said, some people though, who were in the lower class and lower tiers of society when the agriculture came around or feudalism, etc., they didn't get as much reward for their efforts, but they still had reward and they still had a little bit of a social contract where they got something out of it and they could have a family and at least pass on their genes, etc. As time went on, people started to notice like they had these struggles fitting into culture, and things like nihilism started to come into our ideas. Why am I doing all of this? What's the point? A lot of people had no successes and they were slipping into that learned helplessness kind of state on a softer level, depression, you might call it. And people started looking at bigger picture because they were toiling away. They were living these, lives that felt meaningless, and they were getting very little reward out of it because a lot of it was being extracted away from them through taxes or low wages. No direct, they didn't get to eat the whole, you know animal that they killed when they killed it. They only got a portion. So they were like, well, big picture, we live, we die, we have kids, you know we just work our 9 to 5, and that's it. Like, why am I doing this? I'm toiling and I'm struggling for what? To get what? What's the positive stimulus? Because I don't have that original kind of like strong reward system for having my family and my tribe and providing for them and being appreciated for it. Right? Instead, now in history is, there's kings and all these other things. They may just come along and then just tax you 100% in 1 year. You did it all for what? What's the point? You learned how to be helpless. So people start saying, but bigger picture, what's the point of the universe? Why are we even here? And what are we even doing? And this is the bigger takeaway. The at the end of the road, the end of the amusement park ride, why? What are we to be motivated for? Because if you just live, you die, and there's no afterlife, so what? Like, it was all for nothing. All the struggle I go through, all the pain, etc. It's only I have to make meaning out of the moment that I'm in, and I have to try and make it feel good somehow. Here's the bigger answer. The real motivation to existing is that we do go on forever. That is the answer. We go on forever. There is eternity. And then you might even ask, well, we go on forever. Okay, that's great. But to do what? Like, to just suffer? Is it going to become some type of like endless day that repeats and repeats? That's not it either. The real answer is that we are here to create, to extend creation out forever, and to come up with what's new and what's better, and have new ways of experiencing reality for all time. So it's not just even this one life that you get to get the rewards. It is an extended period of many lives, forever, where you're going to get to improve that reality for all of us that exist. And it's a beautiful thing. That's a great thing to be motivated for. So that's it for today. That's today's video. Thanks for watching. I hope this made sense. Please like, comment, subscribe, share if you want. Today we are not doing a live stream at 5. If I'm able to do it later on, I will, but I'm going to be going out doing a family event. So have a good one today, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.